I thought it was just a joke, something silly I said in the middle of a conversation, never realizing it would be the last thing that pushed my husband away forever. I had a little too much wine, a little too much confidence, and before I knew it, the words slipped out of my mouth like a careless whisper. I married Lucas because all the real men weren't available. Everyone at the dinner party laughed, assuming I was just teasing, just playing around like I always did. But the moment I turned to look at Lucas, my stomach dropped. He wasn't laughing. He wasn't even smiling. He just sat there, his expression unreadable, his fingers gripping his napkin like he was grounding himself, like he was trying not to react. Then, without a word, he placed his napkin on the table, stood up, and walked away. Just like that. No yelling, no confrontation, no dramatic exit. Just a quiet final walkout that told me everything I needed to know. I had finally done it. I had broken the one man who never stopped loving me. At first, I told myself he'd come back. That was Lucas, after all. He was patient, understanding, always the type to let things cool off before addressing them. So, I waited. I stayed at the dinner party, pretending nothing was wrong, forcing laughter, ignoring the concerned glances my friends gave me. But deep inside, I was unraveling. When I got home later that night, expecting to find him in bed, I found something else instead. Silence. His closet was half empty. His toothbrush was gone. And there on the kitchen counter was his wedding ring. My breath hitched in my throat. My heart pounded in my chest. This wasn't like him. He wasn't the type to just leave. Was he? Panic settled in, but I pushed it away. He just needed space. That's what I told myself as I texted him. Lucas, where are you? Let's talk. No response. I called. Straight to voicemail. Another text. Another call. Nothing. The sinking feeling in my stomach grew heavier with every passing hour. The next morning, his side of the bed was still untouched. He was really gone. I didn't mean it. At least, not the way it sounded. It was just one of those things you say without thinking, without realizing how deep it cuts until it's too late. The truth? I had always known Lucas was a good man, maybe too good for me. He was kind, patient, loving, everything a husband should be. But that was the problem. He was safe. He was predictable. There was never that intense, passionate, movie-like romance, never that heart-racing excitement that made my skin tingle. And I had let that fester inside me for too long. I started convincing myself that I had settled, that I had picked security over passion, and that deep down I wanted more. I wanted something wild, spontaneous, thrilling, all the things Lucas wasn't. And then there was Daniel. Daniel was everything Lucas wasn't. Bold, confident, the kind of man who walked into a room and owned it. He didn't ask for attention, he demanded it. And when he looked at me, when he flirted with me, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Desire. We never crossed the line, never did anything physical, but in my heart, I knew I was emotionally cheating. I was feeding the idea that I was meant for something else, someone else, without realizing that in doing so, I was destroying the very thing that made me whole. But Lucas, he never even noticed. Or maybe he did, and he just loved me too much to say anything. Until that night, days passed, then a week, then 2. Lucas was gone. No messages, no explanation, just silence. My friends told me to give him time, that he'd come back once he cooled off. But deep down, I was starting to feel something I hadn't expected. Fear. What if he really left me? What if this wasn't just a break? What if I had finally pushed him too far? My pride wouldn't let me say it out loud, but every night, as I lay alone in our bed, staring at the empty space beside me, I felt the creeping realization sink in. I had lost him. And worse, I had deserved it. Then, one afternoon, I saw him. I had walked into my favourite cafe, expecting to grab a coffee and wallow in my own self-pity, when my eyes landed on him. Lucas, sitting at a small table by the window, smiling, laughing, and across from him was her. A woman who was everything I wasn't. Graceful, confident, effortlessly beautiful. She wasn't loud, she wasn't overly flirtatious. She was just happy. And so was Lucas. My chest tightened, my stomach twisted. He looked at her the way he used to look at me. And the worst part? I could tell she appreciated it. She appreciated him. Something I had never done. I wanted to march over there to interrupt, to remind him that I was his wife, that he was mine, but I didn't. Because deep down, I knew the truth. Lucas wasn't mine anymore. He had moved on, and I had no one to blame but myself. Regret is a funny thing. It doesn't hit you all at once. It creeps in slowly, like a shadow that never leaves. I spent years looking for something better, never realizing that the best thing I could have ever had was right in front of me all along. Lucas didn't yell. He didn't fight. He didn't seek revenge. He simply walked away. And that was the most painful punishment of all. Because now I would spend the rest of my life knowing that I had thrown away a good man, a man who loved me fully, a man who would have stayed forever if I had just let him. They say you don't know what you have until it's gone. But the truth? Sometimes you do know. You just never think you'll actually lose it. And when you do, it's already too late. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe for more real-life stories of love, betrayal, regret, and second chances that never come. Because sometimes the worst heartbreak is the one you caused yourself.